And welcome back. This is your man Warrior, and I am doing a first impressions video of the TIE Fighter pilot. This is going to be kind of like an in-depth character review, but a little bit simpler because this is not my character. This is actually a development build, and so it's a character that I only have at 2 stars, and I was able to get it obviously at 7 stars, max gear at level 11 at level 85 with his attacks and abilities maxed out. Now, the reason why I want to do this is while I have the developer build, obviously I want to show some of the people who want to see these characters, what they look like. So I don't have any mods on him, but I don't think I really need him to have mods. And maxed out, you can see his powers at 75, 74. You can see the ship that he runs on the bottom left. That'll be the new place where they locate the ships if they have them. So let's go ahead and look at his stats really quick and see where he's at without mods. So he's an agility character. So he's extremely high on agility, which that aspect of it is for his physical damage, physical critical rating, and armor. He generally overall is kind of squishy. He's only about 24,000 health and protection. There's a number of characters that can one-shot wonder him, so that is his issue, really, is just being squishy. His stock speed is redonkulous. It's 170. That is absolutely insane. He is obviously an Empire attacker, so speed's going to play a big role in keeping him alive because he gets to go fast. He also inflicts buff immunity, and he himself will gain foresight. So kind of like Rey, he's going to try and keep himself out of danger with that foresight. Now, his potency without any mods whatsoever and tenacity are awesome. His potency is over 50%, and his tenacity is at about 1/3, which is awesome. He has health steal. A lot of characters do. His is about average at 10%. His physical damage without any mods whatsoever is almost 2,700, and he has about a 33% critical chance rating, which is awesome. But check this out. Look at the armor penetration. I don't know if you guys ever pay attention to this on characters or not, but his is high at 128 points of armor penetration. That is awesome. Pretty cool. His physical survivability armor himself is 20% with no mods, and the rest of it isn't very important for him. So the ship, briefly, that he is going to fly is going to be the Imperial TIE Fighter. I'm just going to briefly go over this. Now, if you look to the left, you see him, and then you see it says crew power 8336, and it has an ability. That ability to the left, think of it as a unique ability, right? Like characters have a basic, a special, and a unique. This is his unique, what he brings to the table with this ship. So in this ship, when you're using the ship, because you have him, he's gonna grant 15% turn meter to the allied capital ship whenever this ship evades an attack, and this effect is doubled for the Empire capital ships. So obviously you'll want to have an Empire capital ship under his command, or in his, he will be under their command. He has 2 abilities on the bottom. You can see the max level for the one to the right is at 6, and the max level for the one to the left is 7. So if we click on it, it says, the one on the right says a TS8 targeting computer. It has a cooldown of 3. It is maxed out, and it says it's going to deal physical damage to a target enemy and gain foresight for 2 turns, which is very cool. That's very in line with the character that he is, with gaining foresight, right? Whether he's being fought in the regular arena or whether he fights in the ship arena. And he also does what's called target lock, and target lock is where you inflict buff immunity for 2 turns. So that's pretty cool. Now, the first ability gives or inflicts that target lock or that buff immunity for 2 turns. So he deals physical damage to a target enemy with a 70% chance to inflict buff immunity for 2 turns. So that, the LS1 laser cannon, is very cool. This is going to do a lot of damage, and it's going to give him that buff immunity just like his basic character did So let's go back now that we've looked at his ship, and let's look at his attacks and abilities before we give him a quick test drive. So targeting computer, this deals physical damage to a target enemy and deals 35% more damage for each, that's each and every enemy suffering a debuff. So every enemy suffering a debuff. So if you hit everybody with a debuff with B2 or Emperor Palpatine or you know, Phasma, whoever, you are going to get 35% more additional damage. That's absolutely crazy. So he can go from being a heavy hitter to a very heavy hitter. He'll also inflict tenacity down, which is really, really cool against the Yoda teams, the Jedi teams, the Rex teams, maybe the Admiral Akbar type teams. He's going to inflict tenacity down for 2 turns on a critical hit. And we already know a third of the time he's going to crit even without mods. So that is pretty exciting. So let's go ahead and take him really quick into a mod challenge so we can kind of get a first impression of what he's like. Now I'm going to build an Empire team, and this is the Empire team that I'm going to use with the exception of, I'm going to put him in because we need some DPS, right? So we're going to go ahead and test drive with a couple of tanks just to keep these guys safe so we can see what he's all about and how his abilities work. I would test drive his ships, but unfortunately his ship, the only thing I have to test it against is teams that are so easy to kill that you only get to see maybe one ability once. So maybe we'll go over there and test the ability once. So let's check this out. So this is his TIE Strike that's reusable in 4 turns. It deals physical damage to all the enemies, so it's an AoE, with an 80% chance to inflict buff immunity for 2 turns, kind of like his ship does, has a 70% chance to inflict a buff immunity. It also inflicts ability block on the primary target, so this should ability block this guy. And it did, so that's good. I'm just playing around with their abilities so that way we can get back to him. So here's his basic targeting computer. It deals physical damage to the target enemy and deals 35% more damage for each enemy suffering a debuff. Now, obviously, with his first ability, he created 2 debuffs. So now he is going to do more damage because of that. So that did not crit, and it was about 6,700 from what it looked like. And you can see how fast he is. He's definitely getting turn meter pretty quickly. And let's just do that. 3 debuffs over his head and 6,000 as a basic no crit. So can you imagine 6,000 as a core strike being a critical? I mean, that's going to be in the 20,000s. That's pretty awesome. And you could use Darth Vader, of course, to put debuffs over people's heads, and then he in turn is going to do more damage. That would be really, really cool. So there's a crit for 7,000. Now, the reason why it was a crit for 7,000 was because there was no debuffs. So let's go ahead and drop that down. He ability blocked and put tenacity down on that character. And this should kill the guy to the right. Whap! Alright, so I'm going to read this again. Deal physical damage to a target enemy and deal 35% more damage for each enemy suffering a debuff. So because there's one target with a debuff, he still is going to inflict tenacity down. Well, it's going to kill him, so it won't matter. But it's for every enemy across the board. Oh, and he dodged, of course, right? When you're trying to showcase an ability. Round 3 should be just a little bit harder. And that is good. We'll just focus everybody on the Chewbacca in the middle. That'll give him a chance to use his abilities a couple of times. Let's focus on their big hitter. And do you see he gave himself foresight up? Kind of like Rey gives herself foresight. So really very cool ability. And he hit for 5,800 without a crit. I cannot wait to actually get him and leveled up and actually put some critical chance, critical damage mods on him. And then just like you should, definitely debuff the heck out of the other team so you can see, there we go, the AoE, ability block, and he got buff immunity on a couple of them. And then now he gets to do 35% more damage for each enemy. There's 3 enemies, so you know that's over 100% more. That was not a crit, and it was over 9,091 or 9,700. So that's pretty cool. Again, if it was a crit, you know, that could have been potentially, you know, 36,000 if it just would have, you know, actually had a critical. And that critical was a 9,000, but again, there was only one person that was debuffed. So the idea is to debuff the other team with him and then let him do the damage. Wow, 11,000. It's pretty crazy. And I'm just, like I said, trying to use these basic abilities to get back to him so we can check him out again. Let's do the AoE. It did get ability block. Tenacity down did not happen, but let's go ahead and put some red over their head. And we'll kill him. 4 red over his head. But it's really about how many opponents have it and not how many are over a single target's head. So this is only going to give him a 35 boost, and he's really only critting occasionally. That was over 6,000. Again, if he could crit, that would make it phenomenal. It would be worth the critical chance mods for sure, because base power-wise, he's doing a phenomenal job of the damage that he's applying. There we go. There's a stun. That's what I was hoping. It looks like the Royal Guards are dancing when they each like duck down and duck up to give their buffs. It's hilarious. They bob like, I don't know, something funny. Man, it's hard to see the damage he's doing because it is taking it off the screen so quickly. Oh, that Darth Vader did 35k, that's great. I have seen a whole lot more, especially on the old Rancor raid when there was that whole mess with IG-88 and he would put the debuffs down and they wouldn't go away and all that. It was pretty crazy. Alright, so he did a buff immunity on a couple of characters, so that's good. 3 of them got that. And he should now do damage. We'll do Emperor Palpatine to finish him off. Let's see if it shows me the damage he does. So almost 14,000, and that was with 3 people with debuffs. So 14,000, not too bad. And there was only 4 people. If you could have 5 people across the way, and all 5 with debuffs, and that is very, very doable with Darth Vader, you could definitely make him a heavy hitter. Now, like I said, his hits, there was 8,300, only 1 debuffed though. But his hits are pretty good. Now again, keep in mind, this guy has no mods whatsoever on him. This is just a developer setup where he's set up with everything maxed out, gear and all of that, with no mods. Now mods do make a big difference. They'll add about 1,000 power to him, and of course you'll be able to make sure he's critting more consistently, and the crit damage he does is bigger and stronger. And then of course I didn't probably play Darth Vader as good as I could have, with using his AoE to put red over everyone's heads. So what do you think of this character, the TIE Fighter pilot? I know that he's new, the TIE Fighter pilot, but and a lot of us, we all have him, of course, but we don't really have him very high. I don't know of anyone that has him more than about 4 or 5 stars at best, probably 4 stars or so if you started farming him. He obviously looks pretty awesome, and he's definitely going to be very important because he has a ship, and there's only about 23 ships in the game at launch. So what do you think of him? Leave it in the comments down below. As always, keep your gaming on. Warrior out.